let's jump, if we can, we'll try to get a wrap on coronavirus, and now with schools coming, opening soon. We should probably dive into that one because the federal government has certainly been a little bit louder lately with Betsy DeVos's commentary over the weekend or interviews over the weekend. What are your thoughts on reopening schools, and what should the federal government do in partnership with state and local governments to make sure schools open safely?
So my view is we need to reopen our schools. What the federal government needs to do is part of what we saw Betsy DeVos do over the weekend or in the last few days, which is make clear how the federal government is looking at this and how the administration is looking at this issue. We need similar clarity from the medical side as well. And that, I think, it needs to be the key driver. The administration really needs to speak with one voice. I think that not to pile on Dr. Fauci, and everyone knows the issues with him, but he's not helping. And what I mean by that is that not only is his message changing from day to week to month, every time you hear him opine on one of these issues, it seems as if he's talking about something different, right? And we need coherence. We need a singular message coming from the federal government in terms of how to interpret the numbers that are coming back from the states, and what that really means on our prospects for herd immunity and so forth. And I truly believe, and what I'm hearing from the people throughout the 7th District is that they want their children to go back to school. And it's not just about work. It's not just so that the parents can start working and be unfettered and that sort of thing. It's because school is a net positive for children. The interaction with each other, the interaction with teachers, and most of our schools are certainly in the 7th District are able to provide a level of instruction that you just cannot replicate remotely.
But isn't this really more of a local decision? I mean, Highland County isn't Henrico County. Fairfax County isn't Virginia Beach, and Virginia Beach isn't Rockford County. They all have different realities. I mean, this is not South Dakota, North Dakota, where they already have social distancing built into their social fabric. It's what they do. It's just a different equation. But the more densely populated areas, you're going to have, more likelihood to have a more intense spread of the COVID. So is this really the federal government's responsibility to tell local governments they have to go back to school?
So to be clear, my view is that it is not the federal government should not be directing in the manner that you described. What I'm describing is that the federal government needs to be clear on the data and how the states and us as citizens should be interpreting that data. And the federal government can set policy. Ultimately, I do believe that the states have the obligation to manage this process on their own. That said, I think that we're going to reach a point where it's very clear that certain jurisdictions are playing games with not just our students' educations, but with our economies as well. And I think that is something that is pretty clear to most Americans who are paying attention, certainly throughout the 7th District. So yes, I believe that the states and the counties here in the Commonwealth need to make that decision, and that one size will not fit all.
I think one of the opportunities being lost here is the reality that there's so many good virtual and online platforms and companies out there that could fill the gap for a lot of families And that's not being discussed because there's a lot of families whose kids, frankly, would be in a great shape if they were taking like K-12 or Connections Academy, some of the other platforms out there for homeschooling. Is that an opportunity for incentivizing families to do that?
Without a doubt. Now, look, my wife and I, we homeschooled our children for 3 years, and they've been in public school for the last 2 years. But so we've gone through those challenges of building curricula and providing quality instruction. But here's the thing, though, Chris, especially in my district here in the seventh, many of my neighbors don't have access to high-speed internet, to broadband. So they're restricted. Many of the children, the school-aged kids in my district, are being held back, and they're being impeded by the fact that we don't have the distribution of broadband that you would see in other places in Virginia. So as a result, their instruction will necessarily, as a consequence of the infrastructure, will be impeded by that lack of access to broadband. But that said, I believe that decision to homeschool and schooling in more broadly, even just stepping away from what's going on right now, I believe parents must be in charge and given the or empowered with the responsibility to make decisions on the educational outcomes for their children. So if that's homeschool, if that's private school, or what have you, I believe that is the where we should be, and that's how we should be looking at education, rather than it flowing from on high from the federal government down through the states and then down to parents. So certainly, if parents are in a position to homeschool and pursue that line of instruction, they should have that opportunity. I also believe that the money should follow the children so that parents can invest that money as they see fit in sending their children to schools that are high performing and provide those educational outcomes that they want for their children. And but I don't believe remote schooling is going to be perfect for everyone.